In today's video, we're going to be unboxing a Unifi UNAS Pro because my storage situation is very bad. Right now, my main storage is a 20 terabyte pool running on this fairly old Dell R510. I'm hosting TrueNAS Core on there, and one of the 4 terabyte drives in the pool is in bad shape. So we'll take a look at the current Homelab setup, including TrueNAS, and how I'm backing up my Proxmox VMs running on a different server to that same 20 terabyte pool. We'll unbox a Unifi UNAS Pro I bought over a year ago and haven't been able to use because it's so expensive to buy the 12 terabyte drives I want to put in it. We'll get the UNAS all set up and ready, and in part 2, coming very soon, we'll load it up with 7 12 terabyte drives and figure out how to use it as my second backup. Let's get into it. In this utility area of my basement is my Homelab. If we move a little further in here, that includes what I call my Homelab rack, and this is also my home network. Got some servers I'll show you, and then what I call the retro rack over here. Retro gear, mid-90s to mid-2000s mostly networking, but there's some Sunfires and stuff in there I'll show you later. And this is the basic outline of the room with some rough dimensions. Oh, and this is my massive pile of cables that I like to keep right here. As a general rule, my wife does not like any of that crap in the carpeted area. Can't really blame her. At any rate, I've had a very big problem brewing that I've been putting off for a very long time. This is a Dell PowerEdge R510. It's got 2 ZFS pools on it. The larger pool is a bunch of 4 gig disks, and the smaller pool is a bunch of 2 gig ancient 2 gig SAS drives. Period correct with this thing, I think. And I'll show you what's going on there. Basically, one of the disks in the pool I really care about is essentially failed. Sometimes it comes back to life and everything's fine, which is even more concerning. So the main focus here is I need to get redundant storage in here, and I need to replace that bad disk and let this thing rebuild itself, but I can't do that until I have somewhere to back up all this too. So they say RAID and ZFS is not a backup. I don't really have much of a backup story here, other than everything's on here. Every YouTube clip I've ever filmed, which is what I'm most nervous about. A bunch of historical stuff too that I've hoarded over the years and throughout making these videos. But I guess we'll use it as an excuse to give you an overview of what exactly is going on in this rack in the first place, and give you the lay of the land. I forgot to tell you my wife's out of town. Don't tell her. Starting at the top, we are a Unifi setup. This is a Unifi shop. So for better or worse, I'll tell you about my thoughts. I bought all this stuff, most of this stuff, a long time ago. I want to say 2020. I was really getting into Unifi stuff, and that's when most of this showed up, though I have amortized the cost over time, as it were. I didn't buy everything at once. This is a UDM Pro. I've got a 1 gig internet connection coming in from Xfinity. It is over coax, believe it or not. I do have fiber running to this house, so I could upgrade. That hasn't really been a problem. They, for some reason, like quadrupled my upload speed at the same cost like a few months ago, which is I never cared about that before, but that's a really big deal when you're making YouTube videos. So I don't really have any complaints, to be honest. This is the main firewall and router, and it has these 10 gig SFP plus ports. These are DAC cables, direct attached copper. These are very cost effective, and you don't have to deal with fiber or Ethernet to SFP plus. I would highly recommend these. This one is going down, I believe, into here. We'll get there. Actually, that's probably the next step. So UDM Pro, router, firewall, main network, DNS, DHCP, everything. We're gonna have to skip this one for now and go to here. This is the USW. This was a later addition to the network to get more 10 gig capability, basically. So I believe the 10 gig DAC coming from here is going into this. I suppose you could call it a layer 2 switch, maybe, probably layer 2. Don't quote me on that. And so anything that needs 10 gig is gonna go through this 8-port 10 gig switch. I will put the price on the screen for what I paid for this and the year. I remember it being fantastically cheap. Not in the grand scheme of money, but in the grand scheme of 10 gig Ethernet at that time. I remember that being a very fair price. I might have even bought it off of their old beta program or something. At any rate, router coming into the main egg switch, 10 gig, and it in turn is going up to this massive USW Pro. This thing is a monster 48 port switch, all PoE. It handles all sorts of different types of PoE. I'm not even close to maxing it out, but hopefully you can see with these blinking lights, there's quite a bit plugged into it. And maybe as part of this video, maybe this might be a two-parter for reasons you'll see later. These are all the drops coming from the house. And what I'd really like to do is wire this all up the same way and do a pigtail out the back for other gear in this room and in my workshop, which I'll explain shortly. And then this is the UNVR. These, I think I have upwards of 8 video cameras all over the house, in the garages, in the front, in the back. And this thing currently has 3, I want to say 8 gig, what were theoretically surveillance drives. But 2 of them are already going bad. Well, let's go further down into the main problem. I suppose another problem is that I've just got like stuff going all over the place that I don't need. I think this one I do need. We might deal with that in the future. These are 2 Dell PowerEdge servers. I bought these in 2020. I turned them on in fall of 2020, and they have essentially been on ever since, save for a couple power blips, and even now they're on battery backup, so they don't turn off unless I restart them for software reasons. Rock solid. I have no regrets buying these. They've done everything I've ever needed. Granted, my requirements are not very high. Wonderful Homelab servers. I don't have the power draw other than their internal reporting, which we'll take a look at, but maybe we'll use this as an excuse to turn the whole rack off and we'll get a kilowatt. We'll see what the rack truly draws. But at the top, we've got a Dell PowerEdge R720. This complaint here is that one of the power supplies is not plugged in. I would like to get to that. We'll get there. I think they might run a little more efficiently when they don't think one of their power supplies is missing. I can't remember. People have left comments about that. It's got a nice, reasonable supply of drive bays, 3.5-inch drive bays. A few of them, I don't think the lights are entirely accurate. I would say half of them are full. There's an SSD in one for the boot disk. That's another problem. I don't have redundant boot disks on either of these mission critical for me pieces of infrastructure because I set them up in 2020 in my apartment before I even moved into this house. And then that became my production setup. So you know how that goes. I've been lucky this far. That's why I'm getting pretty worried about getting all this backed up. This is running Proxmox, which is an open source hypervisor. Lets me run VMs. It's running 8 or so VMs. I'll show you all those. And then this is my pride and joy. The big, old, slow, power-hungry PowerEdge R510. I bought this because it has 12 bays on the front, and I think there's even room for maybe 2 more, at least smaller SSDs inside. I think its boot disk is inside in the case. These trays are maxed out. I think there's 4 2-terabyte SAS drives in some of them, and then the rest are a bunch of 4-terabyte drives in a Z pool, ZFS pool, basically, that I use for almost everything, and I will be showing you that. Down here, I've got a triplet UPS. It's been on for years. The 2 servers are plugged into this, so when the power goes out, the servers don't go down. I did that. It's just sort of worried about disk health and something catastrophic going wrong with software if the hardware goes down hard like that on a power outage. This has only ever had to power them for, I don't know, a few minutes at a time. There's been a couple times where I've had to run down here and turn them all off. I used to have an automated setup with a Raspberry Pi. I'll show you in the rack. There is a way to automate this thing, talking to this thing, learning that the power's off, turning the servers off. I did used to have that working. I think Techno Tim had a really good video on that. That was my inspiration for that. Probably need to revisit that. This is a 3-screen composite, composite, the crappy one. 3U panel. So a long time ago, I had a Homelab cable setup, I called it. So I've got all these audio video modulators that can take a signal coming from a Raspberry Pi and put it on a channel over coax. So maybe you can see down in here, this one's doing channel 9, channel 13. This is a VGA to composite thing. Extron did a video on that years ago. I borrowed a bunch of Raspberry Pis that was powering all this. The TV that I was using it on is in storage at the moment because I couldn't justify the space, but we'll probably revisit all this in future videos and repurpose it and put it somewhere else. But for now, I think it stays. The UPS is telling us some of the pain. I think I saw 240 watts being pulled. That's just the 2 Dell servers. So you can do the math for your area and get a rough idea what my power bill is. I honestly don't know off the top of my head. It's definitely more than $100. And over here, we've got the retro rack, all the networking stuff at the top, some modem capability, phone stuff, and then the VXR is the main router. This is a totally separate network that some stuff on the other rack I was showing you does have access to, some of the Proxmox VMs. The main switch aggregation area here, right in the middle. Again, this isn't necessarily practical, but it was more an experience to see what would it be like to wire up a large network on some of these switches. It has a 1 gig egg switch, which is quite impressive in my opinion. A few Sunfires, that's a V240 and a V440 right there. I should probably make more videos and do more interesting stuff with those. And then at the bottom we have the powerhouses, the IBM P-Series gear, 2 P5s and a P6. And that little guy right there is their what's called an HMC, hardware management controller. They're on their own little separate network with that old IBM hub there for their management. I've done plenty of videos on that, and you will be seeing a video with that coming soon. I'm realizing as I'm going through all this, you don't have a lot of context for what all these wires are and what's going on. So I'll do my best to explain it. So all those blue Cat6 cables going up to those keystone connectors, actually, that was a big brain move on my part, to be completely honest with you. Those are all the drops in the house it goes up to. So all this stuff right here, I actually loomed all that up myself when I moved in. Those are all the drops off to the rest of the home. And that kind of pigtails off the rack right here. I think they were like 20 footers or something. I made every single one of those by hand. I crimped them and cut them and measured them. Wouldn't do that again, just buy them on Amazon. But this is the big 48 port switch, and this big pigtail that you were just looking at goes into a patch panel, oops, and then down into this. I want to do the same thing on the bottom and have another pigtail going off, and that'll be for the other room and when I'm messing around down here and the retro rack. So as you can see, I've got just like random crap going to the retro rack as I need it. I need to formalize that in the same way I did this. I know it looks crazy, but every cable going up into the house is labeled. I know exactly what room it goes to, and there's a number on every keystone connector jack that corresponds to the patch panel on the front. It is very easy for me to make changes to that setup, and I want to get another one going off for the other 24 ports I'm essentially not using. Here's the Raspberry Pi that is plugged into the UPS, but as you can see, not the network and not being powered. So I'm going to get another UPS to power just the network, and we'll revive this guy so that the servers power off automatically when the power goes out, and then the network will just stay up. I'm not worried about this Unifi Gear running out of power. You can just, they don't even have power switches. To turn them off, you literally just pull the power out, and that's never been a problem. This is an important aspect of the rack. Little Linksys guy. So going into the Homelab rack here is another cable that is going directly into this awesome APC PDU, power distribution unit. I can remotely access this over my home network, which all the Unifi stuff is running. And on the back is a bunch of outlets that powers this entire rack. And remotely, I can turn them on one by one or all of them at once or whatever. So that's what that silly Linksys switch is doing for now. And I gotta say, I'm proud of the power cabling that I did here. I put a lot of thought into it. It's not how maybe you would do it in a real data center, of course, because you'd have racks slammed up against each other. You wouldn't have this deal going on. But I'm happy with it. But because we're looking at all this Unifi gear, let me show you all the other infrastructure in the house that is part of the Unifi ecosystem and everything going on there. We'll start over here. This is a little video game area I've got. And you can see right in there some Unifi stuff. We might have to take a quick look at this stuff though. Gotta take a look at this. This is oddly applicable given my Neo Geo Turf Masters motif I'm doing for some reason. Here's a Neo Geo SNK controller. This is a Omega, so you could play Turf Masters on this. This is my buddy's actually. I can't remember if you could, I don't think you can do an SD card or anything. You gotta play the real carts, so you can do a multi-cart, I guess. That thing's pretty sweet. But anyway, way down there is a PoE powered Unifi switch. I will put the date I bought it, the price, and the actual model number, because I can't remember. And that basically just gives Ethernet hardwired Ethernet to this little area, and essentially it's just serving one TV at the moment. And then now we're back in the workshop where I film the majority of the videos, obviously. You'll see a lot of this workshop later, where the bench is and everything. And way up there, I've got a Unifi access point. I think it's a Wi-Fi 6 access point. That's the last one I bought. I'll put its stats as they were on the screen there. That thing works so well that way up in other rooms of the house, my phone will want to stay attached to that one, and it works just fine. Also PoE powered. That's a theme here. And then up in my wife's office, we've got this thing. I bought it so long ago, I don't remember what it is. Also PoE powered, and basically it essentially serves my wife's computer in here. Oh, and we're gonna get a Chloe sighting. Get in there, Chloe. What's up, Chloe? This is Chloe. She's not PoE powered. That thing's been rock solid. I don't know if they make it anymore, but I could definitely recommend it, even secondhand. It's been really good. It's just a Wi-Fi access point. Over in this garage, we can see that is a PoE splitter. So PoE is coming in from the main switch, powering that device and splitting it out two ways. One of these Unifi cameras that covers the garage, and maybe you can just barely see that blue wire. That is going across that 2x4 and ends on the other side. I drilled a hole through the wall. That's the outside, and that covers part of the driveway. I might have even done a video about all this years ago. Can't recommend watching that. Another internal garage camera up in there. I think these are G4 bullets. I'll show you one later. It's powered by another one of those PoE splitters. So that guy is powered by the main 48 port switch down in the basement, and it splits off two ways, the camera I was just showing you. Oh, also I put it in with the ports facing up. A lot of people didn't like that. And I didn't change it. So far, you know, years later, it's been fine. Because I think the idea is that crap could get in there. Whatever. Maybe you can see that blue cable going up the 2x6s there. That is coming out of that splitter I was just showing you. And that's another outdoor camera. And then check this expert install out. This is another Unifi access point. Kind of gets warm. PoE powered, of course. That's just where I have it. So this serves the rest of the upstairs in addition to the one in my wife's office I was showing you. And apparently I unboxed it about 5.5 years ago and just left the box right here. So any joke I'm making about my wife, it's in jest. She is a saint, let me assure you. Oh, and this ridiculous Techniques RS1700 reel-to-reel player is up here. I bought this from my father-in-law, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe, for $1,000. He included those JBLs back there. I think they're JBL 70s. He bought this brand new when he was stationed in Italy. He was in the Air Force. I think he watches these videos, so hey, Bruce. It still works. It's in perfect condition. It's probably getting to the point where it's going to need a service. I've been really tempted to make a video about this thing because it's absolutely fascinating. It's totally different than the type of stuff I usually cover. I've got a bunch of reels that he recorded off of records in the late 70s when he bought it. I think he bought it in 78 or 79. Yeah, and it still works. Let me show you a reel, actually. Just look at this. So I don't know which one this is. This might not have anything on it. Yeah, there it is, actually. All the songs he recorded on it. And it's just, they sound just incredible. So you can imagine when you get this thing all reeled up, it's pretty impressive. So if that's anything you'd be interested in seeing, let me know, because I've got it, and it's an absolute piece of audio history. It's pristine. They're incredibly rare. I have blank reels for it, which are, you literally can't even find those. So yeah, let me know if you want a video on this thing. Chloe's like a soft maybe on the reel-to-reel video. She's thinking about it. We're in the home stretch. Unless you have been watching my videos for a long time, you're not going to recognize this Unifi device. This is the mains power, you know, the 110 lights. You can probably even barely tell they turn off. This is a PoE powered LED switch. And as you can see, it gets quite a bit darker because that's the majority of the light in here. It's got this really nice blue rectangle that kind of pulses so you can find it. It's touch sensitive. That's another PoE powered Unifi device I've got because I was an absolute sucker and bought the Unifi LED. These are PoE powered. So I've got PoE going back to the main rack I was showing you. powering these LEDs. I'll show you the interface for these later. I don't think these are on the website or anything anymore. So here's when the main lights turn off. Okay, not much there. There's with the LEDs off. They're really good. The worst part was getting them set up. So it was clearly like something they had an initiative on and then they gave up on it. I don't even think they sell them anymore. They had mains powered ones, I think 110, 120, whatever powered ones. I bought the PoE because I was obsessed with PoE back then. I still kind of am, I guess. But I went all in. So I've got these. I'm just waiting for these to stop working one day, to be honest with you. I'll show you the interface later. The UDM Pro, I kind of like had to side load off of some community forum post on the Unifi forums to even get these things to work. There's like an LED app. I'll show you that later. But I've got these too. What you're looking at is a ceiling right outside the room with all the racks in it. And I've got one more access point. I put this in before I bought the fancy Wi-Fi 6 one for the workshop. That was total overkill. This one does just fine. Don't worry about my smoke detector that I pulled out. The carbon monoxide sensor went bad. There's literally one like 5 feet away, so it's not as sketchy as it looks. To orient you, if I even can, behind me is the Homelab rack. Here's where I put those cables. You walk in this door to see all the racks. That access point was directly above this. And the reason I did that is because I had easy access. I could run a cable, very easy, drill a hole, install the access point. One part of home labbing is just having fun. I didn't need to put it there. It could be sitting on this little cubby right here. I have to stress, if you're watching this for home lab reasons, just have fun. Check out that cable management. Finally, an honorable mention. This is another Unifi 24 port something Pro PoE switch, very powerful in its own right. I don't need that. So all it's doing is that yellow trunking you're seeing is going into the workshop. It's essentially powering those LEDs and giving me a couple lines. It is aggregated through the switch, the egg switch at 10 gig. I'm going to decommission that, and this guy right here, as you saw earlier, has plenty of available ports. That's the pigtail I want to make, the second one off the patch panel that's on the bottom. And get rid of that, because that's just ridiculous to have that running, and I'll sell it or something. I don't know what I'll do with it, but it doesn't need to be there. But that's the last piece of Unifi Gear. So the point of this wasn't to be like, oh, look at all this cool shit I've got. Well, maybe you don't think it's cool. I think all the stuff I showed you is really cool. But I have a non-trivial Unifi setup. I've been running it for over 5 years. I bought all of it myself. I didn't reach out to Unifi and be like, hey, can I borrow one of your switches and do a review? And none of that crap. I've been running this stuff in, we'll say production, but like as my home network for over 5 years. And so at the end of the video, towards the end, maybe I'll just talk a little bit about what I think about all of it. I think I mentioned that like I would do it differently. I didn't need this UNVR. One hard drive is totally enough. Like I live in a pretty safe neighborhood. It's not a big deal if that hard drive goes. You know what I mean? Like it depends on your scenario. I'm also just a home labber, so Unifi hits the sweet spot for prosumer, I think. It's relatively affordable for what you get. There's no subscriptions, none of that crap. They've done some stuff over the years that are a little questionable, but I think they're back on the right track. All of this stuff is, I won't say old, but it's been running for years, and it's never been a problem, except for this thing, actually. We'll talk about that later. But it is still running, the same unit I bought. It kind of smells a little musty in here. Everyone knows you should have active water drainage right next to all your expensive computers. That's the perfect setup. So you can see it's dripping a little bit. That used to be like the max it ever would, and now it's really pouring out when the furnace is running. I don't know if I have a dehumidifier. Anyway, everyone knows that's a good idea, but that brings us to our next section. Look at that guy. The belle of the ball, the Unifi UNAS Pro that I bought like a year ago, and it's just been sitting here. This thing is huge. Here is a Zip 100 disc for scale. I will say the Unifi designers absolutely have my number because I love seeing this perfect, I won't call it pixel art, but diagram of the item. So it's a 2UNAS. This whole thing's purpose in life is being a network attached storage device, meaning it's got a lot of disks inside and it will provide access to the contents of those disks over your network. And as you can see, we've got 4 on the bottom, 3 on the top, 7 disks total. I think it can take, well, obviously these are 3.5-inch bays. Let's see if those are to scale, shall we? I'm thinking yes. Here's a compact 36.4 gig, 15,000 RPM, Ultra 3 SCSI drive. Oh, no, that is not to scale. That won't fit in there. All right, this thing's trash. I keep losing my pointer device. Found one. Anyway, I was just sort of kidding. They were so close to being at scale, though. Like, why not? There's plenty of room. Why not just do that? This is a sticker they put on there. I can feel that. Anyway, there's a gigabit interface, RJ45, I'm guessing. I'm guessing it's a gig. I know that's RJ45. And then the SFP Plus at 10 gig. We're going to put that into the aggregation switch. I bought this January 9th, 2025, over a year ago, for $540.80 US cents. And the reason I have this awesome thing that I haven't opened yet is because I couldn't afford to fill it with 7 drives. Storage is getting more expensive. So in that R510 that has the 12 bays, one of those 4 terabyte drives is going bad. I'm running TrueNAS Core on there. I realize I'm kind of going out of order and I haven't shown you that yet. I promise I will. But when that went bad, I bought this one. I bought all those originals over 4 years ago. So the last one I found was I bought it on June 2nd, 2021 for $169.99 US dollars. A 4 terabyte drive on June 2nd, 2021. When my drive went bad, I bought a backup. So this is a 4 terabyte drive, same exact drive. I bought it January 5th, 2025 for $89.99. So this thing went down in price quite a bit. What about bigger drives? This is a 12 terabyte Seagate Ironwolf NAS drive. I bought this October 14th of 2023 for $208. I bought a few of these. I knew I was going to need more drives. I didn't know how many, so I was starting to buy them years ago because drives are so expensive. And then to finish off this project, I'm waiting on 2 more of these, which will get us to the total of 7 we need. I bought some used drives too. We'll get there, but I have 5 in my possession today as of this filming. I need 2 more. I bought them on Amazon. Guess what I paid? This same drive that has been in this box in my basement for 3 years now costs $269. It's gone up in price. For my entire life, storage has only gotten cheaper until the last 365 days. Anyway, we're all cooked. Good news though, I've got 2 of these, technically 3. I have a fun bonus 3rd version I'll show you later. And then I bought a few from Server Part Deals. These are refurbished, used enterprise drives, also 12 terabytes. I bought these November of 2025. There are 3 12 terabyte NAS drives in here. I paid about $189 each after taxes. I realize I haven't always been including taxes in all my quotes just now, but enough for you to get an idea. Anyway, I've never gone through Server Part Deals. The risk you're running is that they're refurbished. So, well, they're not refurbished, they're used, I guess maybe is a better way to put that. I really like this packaging though. That's pretty sweet. All right, these are Dell branded 12 terabyte SATA drives. I think this is going to work for my use case. So I've got a total of 3 of these used ones, and then the other 4 will be brand new. And I've actually spread out buying those over the course of 3 years, so they're not from the same lot. They theoretically won't fail at the same time. I figured to save a little bit of money, it was worth risking. I don't think it's much of a risk, but these drives can actually last a pretty long time. And of course, I believe Server Part Deals tests them. I'm 99% sure. So obviously not affiliated. I've just only heard good things. Guess who's helping out down here? So as of this moment, that's the drive setup. I've got 3 of these used ones, 2 of these brand new Ironwolves that I bought years ago, 2 more on the way, going to be here in a few days, hopefully in time for this video, and that'll bring us to a total of 7. I do technically have one of these already. A 3rd one It's in the R720. I'm doing some sort of, half-assed emergency backup to one of those until I get this operational. Speaking of which, let's unbox the UNAS Pro. Unifi always gives you quite the experience. There's like a little pull tab right here, this little guy, and that's how we're gonna get in. You honestly feel a little bad throwing away the boxes. It's that type of experience, so that was pretty nice. Let's put this around. Okay. Ooh. Okay, it's gonna come out this way. Let's start with the hardware kit. Very fancy braided power cable. That's not gonna match the rest of the rack. And then they always do this little thing where it's this foam slider, so some rubber bumpers to put it on a table. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to keep those. Those are useful. And then all sorts of hardware. Here's our cage nuts, the silver ones to match the machine. These are hard drive screws. Oh, that's really nice. So in the box, there's going to be 7 trays, and so it looks like I've got enough screws to screw in hard drives. I didn't even think about that. Some screws for the ears, which are sitting right in here. So we'll have to put these rack ears on there to get that in the rack. Very nice. And then there it is, hiding in there in some foam. It looks like I got to pull this whole thing out, so I'll do that really quick and unwrap it and show you what's going on. Did I mention this thing is quite large? We're really liking what we're seeing. So usually the Unifi drives you push like this and they click out. They've got some sort of sticker for, oh yeah, that was just on there so that it doesn't come out while it's traveling, I guess. I don't know if I'm in love with these, but they do work. It's pretty straightforward. So, sticker on each of those, and we've got a sticker on the LED panel. I've already scratched the thing. Never mind, it's just gunk from my hands. And then we've got a 1 gig RJ45 and then an SFP Plus. Unifi has these little covers that they like to, I don't know why I'm trying to do this with the knife anyway. That's a SFP Plus port, clearly labeled 10 gig Ethernet right there. That's awesome. I didn't scratch it, don't worry. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go through what's called the adoption process. We'll do that in here with this 1 gig port, I think. Make sure it works, power it up. But first, none of that's gonna make any sense, what I'm trying to accomplish, unless I show you what I'm running in the network right now. TrueNAS and Proxmox predominantly. Let's talk about that. I hope you're enjoying that whole Turf Masters shtick, because I'm pretty committed to the bit now. I don't think I'm going to stop. I've been hand editing all of those Turf Masters screenshots, by the way, so hopefully it's worth it. This is TrueNAS Core. This is what is running on the Dell R510 with the 12 bays. And in it I have, actually, let's take a look at how old it is. I am terrible at updating things. I'm seeing a 2022 copyright. Don't like that. How do you figure out what version it's actually on? Surely there must be a way. Well, anyway, suffice it to say, I can't remember the last time I upgraded this thing. As in brought it up to the current version of TrueNAS Core. Part of why I bring that up is because I just really haven't needed to. It just works. I should, oh, here we go. We've been up 208 days. It's right in front of us. We're running TrueNAS 12.0 U81. Let's see how old that is. Check for updates. I am on a legacy release end-of-life train. Okay, I'm at least a full version behind. We're not going to mess with that, though I do trust TrueNAS, until we get a backup of this thing. But this is the Dell R510. It's got apparently a Intel Xeon E5620. I think there's 1 CPU in there, 16 threads. It's got 64 gigs of RAM over here. Most of which is used for the ZFS cache. TrueNAS lets you make ZFS pools. You can think of it like RAID arrays, except it's an open source, different technology that I think Sun Microsystems came up with. And I believe TrueNAS is a really good way to go. There's something called TrueNAS Scale now. I think it's backed by Kubernetes. The TrueNAS Core stuff is just because I installed this back in the day when it used to be called FreeNAS. It's a BSD-based, Linux distro. Basically lets you turn any machine into a storage appliance. It's a little more involved than that because you have to do something called software RAID, but that's not what this video is about. I have 2 pools on here. We've got Gemini 1 This is on some really old SAS disks that I set up just to see if I could set up a pool about 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago. And in here we've got 4 drives and they are fine. This has been really useful. I actually use this pool with older SMB and NFS settings so that like my Windows XP machines can talk to it. I've had good luck with that, not dedicating my real pool of data to it. I'll show you the VMs shortly. And then here's the problem. Gemini 2, these are my names. I called this pool Gemini 2. It's got 8 4 terabyte disks and it's degraded. And another problem is I've used 70% of the space, but we'll solve that in another video, I think. That's not what this video is about. If we go in here, we can see DA6, that's the unique name of the disk. It has faulted. It doesn't tell you anything about what the fault is, but this is scaring me. So sometimes it comes back up. So it faulted, I want to say like pushing a year ago, maybe more, when I bought that 4 terabyte drive. And then there's been periods where it's kind of been okay, but it's definitely down right now. Now, let's talk about what's going on here. This, again, is not a ZFS tutorial. However, I've got Gemini 2 here in a degraded state, which is horrifying to see. Everything I care about is on this one. I believe I can lose 2 disks. So I've got this in a situation where another disk can actually fail. And I think I'm still okay, but the clock is ticking. What I need to do, I want to back all this stuff up on the UNAS Pro. We'll get the 4 terabyte disk in here, rebuild this array. So what's going to happen is, here's all the disks in the system. You can see what pool they're dedicated to. And what's going to happen is I'm going to pull the bad disk out, put the new one in, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on all the other disks because it's going to have to read them a bunch and write to the new disks. And so what can happen is while you're rebuilding your array, so to speak, other disks can go bad. And then you're in really bad shape. So I need a full backup first. This has not been a very good overview of TrueNAS, but I really, really like it. So let's look at sharing. So I can set up NFS shares. Both of my shares have NFS access. I use that all the time in the VMs that I'll show you. SMB. So I've got some Windows shares. Gemini 2 is particularly important to me. Let's pull that up now. So here is a folder of all the video clips I've made while recording this actual video. I put them in a folder I call raw. All those extra ones are Premiere Pro, dropping stuff in, and audio changes. So I actually edit the videos off this NAS. And so this video up until this point, let's take a look, has already consumed 20 gigs so far and 161 files. So like, for example, this is me editing the video you're watching just now. So as far as I've gotten here is I was about to tell you, I'm about to film the clip I just made. And this is right off the TrueNAS instance you're seeing over SMB on Windows. I use Windows for my main desktop. Equal opportunity, I use OS X at work. You're about to see a lot of Linux VMs, don't worry about it. But the point is, this is very bad. Do not want this to be degraded. I'm also running out of space, which is probably going to have to be another video. Priority number 1 is the full backup. Honorable mention, put myself over here. I have a 10 gig Ethernet card in that machine. So this is going into the 10 gig aggregation switch I was showing you. So I have a 10 gig link between this computer, those 2 servers, and pretty soon the UNAS Pro. Now, I believe we're getting bottlenecked by the fact that I'm using spinning rust. So these are ye old hard drives. They're not solid state or anything. But in my experience, editing these videos live off of the NAS, so I literally, this is like how I edit these videos. This is over the network. And it works really well. That weird crap you're seeing there is my video card acting up. That has nothing to do with the network. Anyway, now we're going to get into Proxmox. This is running on the Dell R720. And this is where I host all of my VMs. And let's pull it up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh. Hello. Oh, no! Again, I'm just kidding. I love my wife. I'm hosting 9 VMs here in Proxmox, and you can see I'm running 7.2-3. And I just looked it up. That was from 2022. I think, if I looked that up correctly. So again, I must stress, Do not do this the way I do it, where I never back up anything and never update anything. But let's look at the summary of this Proxmox machine. This is the big guy. So we've got two Intel E5-2680s at 2.7 gigahertz and 32 cores each, I guess. I don't know. But we've got 192 gigs of RAM in there. It's going to show as about 188. And you can see a lot of it's being used by these VMs. These VMs aren't doing a whole lot. I'll show you the two most important ones. I've got this Linux VM called Worker 3 that hosts a TFTP server. I'll show you how I attached the TrueNAS storage to it. And then I've got a couple XP VMs, Windows XP. So let's fire this one up. And it's got a nice Cisco Systems screensaver that scares me every time because I forgot I did that. However, you can see I can connect to my shares. So these are the SMB shares being stored by TrueNAS, which is really useful. So I usually use these folders called Scratch, where I just put random crap I want to drag over to this VM. So for example, if I want Morpheus, even better, Napster 2B6, drag it over, no problem. Now I've got it on my Windows XP VM. I can mess around. The TrueNAS setup I've got is really useful for this type of thing. Let's go back to this Worker 3 VM I've got. So from my Windows machine here running WSL, I do prefer Linux. I can SSH into Worker 3. I've got all my SSH keys set up, and this is that VM. Now, in this mount folder, I have this folder called Lab. Let's take a look at what is in Lab. We've got Minecraft, some Minecraft server stuff, and there's that Scratch folder, and then Transmission. Lab, as in Homelab, is a folder I automatically mount. So I'm looking at it through SMB here in Windows. This is on TrueNAS. So on Scratch, I've got all sorts of stuff I might want to put on these VMs. In Transmission, this is a torrent client, and I apparently, if you remember this video, Veritas backup. Don't need that. So basically here I can go find like a Linux ISO, and I know everyone says that like as a joke, but literally I can just go on archive.org, find a torrent I like, paste it in here and add it, and it'll just show up in here on TrueNAS when it's done. I'm not going to show you what's in there because it's just Linux ISOs. Did you see that? There's half a gig in there. I got to delete that crap. But the point is, the TrueNAS server on the R510 and this Proxmox server on the R720 are sort of interconnected. The VMs mount shares from the R510 TrueNAS, which I need to back up. And in fact, some of the VMs are literally stored over the network on there. I don't know if I have an example. I think it was this one, Worker NAS 1. So I think this is a Linux VM. I can boot this up, and it's literally, its storage is on the TrueNAS server. The Proxmox server doesn't have to give up any of its very limited storage. I think it's an SSD to host that VM. That's something you can set up. And then down here is kind of interesting. You can see these like backup things that have been running. All of these VMs right here back up, I believe, nightly or at least weekly to the TrueNAS server. First of all, if I totally lost this Proxmox instance, I wouldn't particularly care. I can rebuild all this stuff. I've got the scripts saved off to automatically create these VMs and everything. I would lose a fair amount of work, but the point is they actually back themselves up to the TrueNAS server. So we need to back that thing up to the Unifi ProNAS. So hopefully that's enough context about why I bought this thing in the first place. I need to get all my stuff onto it, so I have 2 backups at least. We'll talk about backup strategy in the later part of this video. Having 2 in the same room is not good enough. I realize that. But I need to get all that stuff on here, so we're going to adopt this into my existing Unifi network. And I haven't shown you any of the Unifi software yet. That's what we'll do next. Let's get this thing set up. getting this thing plugged in, and it was a pretty fancy setup. One of those Unifi covers was on there. There's a little lock. It actually locks this special cable in. It's got a little groove there for that. I'm guessing you can plug in a normal IEC cable. Let's see. Oops. Yeah, okay, they weren't that mean. So I'm going to use this one just because I can, and I do kind of like that it locks. That's pretty nice. I've got this thing plugged into my home network. I haven't adopted a Unifi device in several years, probably 2 years or something. It has like it's got Bluetooth on it, and you can use the Unifi app, but I'm hoping I don't have to do any of that crap. Let's turn it on. Makes no noise. I can hear a very quiet fan just kicked on. This thing is silent. I would imagine once the drives are in there, of course, A, you could hear the drives, and B, it's going to have some, I'm imagining, some temperature control in there. It might kick those fans up. But right now, it's near silent. Booting up, it estimated 2 minutes about 10 seconds ago. Now it says there's 1 minute left. Let's let this do its thing, and I'll show you what the Unifi network controller looks like. Actually, it just finished. It was way less than its 2-minute estimate. Saying ready for setup. You can get the app on your Android or iPhone. Looks like there's the Bluetooth icon up there like I was talking about. Yeah, download the app. I don't think so. I did see it scroll across, that's its MAC address, but it did get a IP on my network from the UDM Pro. I think we can just do it in that interface. There it is right there. Here's the network app running on that Dream Machine Pro, and I was looking at the release notes for this guy, and they're from 2022? Am I looking at that right? 3 years ago? It's at least 3 years ago. That can't be good. I need to update more stuff. I'm also just realizing, so this isn't going to be necessarily a overview of how all this works, but it is nice. I like it. I can go see the topology of all my Unifi devices. It does an okay job with this. You can see my LED stuff. Actually, I'll show you that later. Unifi devices get their own special section. So here is this device itself, a bunch of switches, access points, and then all of the cameras are actually owned by the UNVR. And I'm not seeing that guy. I've also done no research on how to do this. I'm just winging it to see what it would be like as someone unboxing this and just trying to get it to work. So I'm realizing for the UNVR with the cameras, I actually log into that separately. That's this guy right here. I hit its IP address, and it is running the Protect software, or whatever they call it now. And so it might be the same story with this one. So let's just go hit its IP, I think. I think it said 134 on there. Oh, baby. Look at this. That was great. Plus points for that. All right, it's asking for a name. I've zoomed in on the browser a little bit so you can get a better experience. This is the normal size of the web page, just for good measure. So I'll call it the UNAS Pro. That's fine with me. Oh yes, create one. You do have accounts you make with Unifi for better or worse. And then I do like this. They give you a 6-factor authentication code to your email. This even happens when I log into the UDM Pro or the UNVR. Getting in there. I'm not restoring from a backup. We'll continue with that one. At least one drive must be installed to set up this device. I don't have all my drives yet, but for the sake of getting past this, I'm going to put one drive in there. That's a little disappointing. You can't even get into the admin interface without doing this. Let's see. Potentially toolless. There's a little pull handle. You pull on that, and it pulls back these nubs that fit into the screw holes on the drive. So I think the story is you slot that side in. Yes. And then you break your fingernails doing this. Bam. Can't wait to take that out someday. These should be hot swappable, so this shouldn't be a problem. You can hear the drive spinning up. Shows this little setting up screen while I'm configuring it for the first time here. I'm sure this displays all sorts of information about the array health and all that as well. This will definitely be a 2-part video because I still don't have my hard drives. I bought them a few days ago. It doesn't say they're going to get here for another 5 days, and they haven't even shipped yet. They haven't even printed a label for them, so that's unfortunate. This screen updated right away. I've got a green light in the bay I plugged it into. It knows the model number, it knows the size, says it's healthy. I didn't refresh the screen or anything. It's saying that to have data storage protection, of course I need more than one drive. It's got two modes, basic and higher. Basic gives me, I can do a RAID 1 or a RAID 5, and higher will do RAID 10. I'm probably going to do basic once all the drives are in there because this is a second backup. You can also reserve one. This is telling me about the hot spare option. If I had more drives, I could reserve one to automatically replace one that fails. I'm not going to worry about that either. So let's skip apply storage protection because I'm going to have to do that later. It is warning me that I'm not doing the right thing. Okay, this is more what I was expecting without even needing to put a hard drive in. That's kind of odd. So let's see what happens. That took all of 3 seconds. I heard the hard drive make a little noise. Go to the dashboard. Okay. Oh, now it says it's going to take 5 minutes. What's going on here? So it's going to update to the latest version of the software. I think that makes sense. That's probably a good thing. Because I'm not going to do that. And then, as always, you get an indication of what the device is up to on that little front LED panel thing. Screen has gone white while the thing updates. It probably updated the software it's running, the NAS software, and likely its firmware, I'm guessing. Don't know. It's back up. I still honestly don't understand why it needed a hard drive to get this far. Surely it's not storing its own stuff on my drives. So I need to agree to some terms of service, of course. Ooh, yeah. So this brings up some information about the UNAS Pro itself. CPU, memory, pretty sweet. It looks like right away I can just go to an SMB share on this thing. We'll try that out in a second. Yeah, ooh, NFS. Perfect. So I was really hoping this thing would have an NFS share. It might not have when it initially came out. Let's just turn it on, just for fun. Apply. So I didn't show you much of TrueNAS, but I'll tell you what, it's not that easy. It's a lot more of a learning curve, which is one of the reasons I wanted this. I can do system backups, probably to the disks themselves. Maybe that's useful. Set up push notifications to myself. I do have the network app. I don't think maybe they have a drive app. I'm not sure. This is pretty sweet. Colby's Drive. So it made that automatically for me. Okay. Let's see if it actually works. Oh boy, I wonder what that is. 1 second. So I'm a user. Funny, that's not how my last name is spelled. Don't know what that's about. Let's create a new user. Clab. It has to be an email? Employee ID? Oh, and it's like assigning personal space to the... Finally, I broke down and read the docs. So in settings, I can go to users. I automatically created a user for me based on my email I log in, my Unifi email. And then it said go over here, and there's this thing called file service credentials. I can turn that on. And then let's do, I don't know, collab, the usual suspect. Oh my gosh, this is my own home. I don't like this. I don't like password requirements for my own stuff inside my own house. It logged me out, even though I logged in with my Unifi email. Not liking any of this so far. Let's try this again. Collab, and then if I can remember that stupid password. And it worked. Okay, so here's my 12 terabyte drive. We can drag a text file in there. Bam. Okay. Doable. So that's the UNAS Pro setup. Whirlwind tour. Pretty much works out of the box. We're not going to be able to go much further until part 2 of this video, where we actually load this up with drives, get some redundancy, and figure out a backup strategy from TrueNAS. But I got to show you something else. This is the Dream Machine Pro. These appliances run what Ubiquiti calls applications. So this thing's main purpose, of course, is to run the network application, which I was just showing you. This is how I configure and run my home network. I think it's because I have such an old version, but it takes forever to load that page, always. And then even when I've updated in the past, it's always slow. It's kind of annoying. My favorite part about my network is that it thinks a USB hub is an oven. So I named it oven ? But anyway, back to the main UDM Pro interface here. You can see I've got this funny looking app running. This is the LED app. I don't know if they've ever released an update for this thing other than some UI skinning since I installed these over 5 years ago. But it's pretty cool. It shows me I'm consuming 60 watts total. It shows you the wattage over time. Obviously, when I'm not in here, the lights are off and it's pretty minimal. It's pretty cool, I must say. So you can go look at all the devices. You can put them in groups and turn things off all at once. You can turn things off from here. So here's the switch. It's considered a device, of course, and I can toggle it from here. You can see the lights turn off. I can turn off one of the lights. You can kind of tell. It's really cool. I wish they would have kept pursuing it. It was really janky to set them up. So like adopting the LEDs to this app barely worked. You'd have to do it like 4 or 5 times. It was really a mystery as to whether it was going to work. Once they're in there, though, I haven't had any problem. I've updated them before. There are no updates now. You can see. I don't think they're doing a lot with this thing. I wish they had pursued it because I haven't found anything else this cool that is PoE powered LEDs. I can control them remotely, and it integrates into my home network setup. So yeah, that part is a shame. I had to like, there's a forum post out there somewhere where you sideload this LED onto the device. So they technically support it. Like I was saying, I'm waiting for this to just stop working one day. This concludes part 1 in the I need more storage extravaganza journey. I have to stop here because I want to load it up with all the drives and have it build its array. I don't want to do that more times than I need to, and it would be kind of pointless to do it twice, basically. There will be a part 2. We'll actually load this up with the drives, see how that goes in the UI. We'll figure out where to put it in the rack. The rack is in a precarious position from an electricity standpoint. It's on one 15 amp outlet, which is I think it has a GFCI outlet on there. The GFCI likes to trip what I believe is during current inrush, might be something else. So basically if I power something big on, in addition to what's already in the rack, it flips off and that's a whole thing. So I'm probably going to need to upgrade that to a 20 amp outlet, and I think it'll be a good excuse getting this in there and not having to worry about power constraints anymore. And also we'll measure the full draw of the rack. I haven't done that in a long time. I'll have to turn everything off to do that. That'll be in part 2, and in the meantime I'll come up with a backup strategy. My thinking is I'm going to push from TrueNAS to this, either with a script, or there might be some TrueNAS native capabilities where I'm able to do that. And I think that'll work pretty nicely. What do you think about the Turf Masters music? Maybe it'll make a comeback in part 2. I don't know if part 2 is going to be the next video, but it'll be soon because I have a pretty dire storage situation. In fact, I kept talking about the mystery third 12 terabyte drive that I have. That's in the Dell R720, the Proxmox machine, and it's mounted. And the NFS share on the TrueNAS machine is also mounted there, and I manually rsync my YouTube backups to there when I remember to do so. So, not good. I think I said I would talk about my thoughts on Unifi. So I showed you all that Unifi stuff, not to be like, oh, look at all this stuff, cool stuff I've got, look at me. It was just to show that like, I'm not just running one router and one access point, I'm running a lot. And I've been doing it for 5+ years. Now, a caveat, I am not a business. This is a home network. This stuff is it's not meant for this, actually. It's meant to be like used in a business setting, small to medium business, multiple sites, many clients connected. That's just not what's going on in my setup, obviously. So I don't have any experience with it being fully under pressure and under load, but I have a lot of experience, years of experience managing it and upgrading it. And overall, I would recommend it to anyone interested in networking and willing to spend the money and the time. You need to be a little more advanced, I would argue, than just the router that your ISP gives you. However, you do get a lot of flexibility. There's a coolness and like funness aspect to it. It's just fun managing all this stuff and having that central location, those dashboards. I didn't show you any of the camera streams for obvious reasons, because that kind of defeats the purpose of having security cameras on your house. But yeah, managing this I think is going to be a pleasure. I did actually like the setup. Wasn't in love with the SMB account setup stuff, but to be honest, that's how you should do it. So, and even in a home situation, you probably set up one for each family member or whatever. That's just not how I'm going to use this thing. It's just a pile of disks I need to throw stuff at. Around upgrading, I want to say it was 2020, 2021, around there. I don't have any specific examples, but it seemed like every update that Unifi, software update that Unifi pushed out had just very scary, horrendous bugs. And that actually made me worried about updating for a long time. I did have a scenario where I did upgrade. I can't remember what year. And it basically broke the whole network. I had to roll back to a backup. We didn't even talk about the fact that you have to back up the configurations for these things. And I do, believe it or not. I know it doesn't sound like it. So that's actually what makes me a little gun shy about backing up the network application. The UNVR is actually set to automatically back it, or excuse me, I said backup. Upgrade the software. The UNVR is set to automatically upgrade. So on some cadence, it actually just auto upgrades itself. I think at midnight, you know, some day of the week, some day of the month, or something like that. And since I turned that on, I haven't had any problems. That was a couple years ago, I think. Now back to the UNVR. The biggest, other than discontinuing these very expensive LEDs I bought, that was a bummer. At least they still work, I guess, for now. The UNVR had a problem. The software it runs on, the software that runs on it is on a USB stick. And let me grab this USB stick and show you how bad this is. This total no-name piece of crap USB stick that I've written UNVR bad on, I'm keeping it as a memento, was plugged in inside the UNVR and just hot glued in there. And after a year or two, I want to say, it went bad because it's a piece of shit. So that was really disappointing. The UNVR wasn't cheap. Can't remember the price, but wasn't cheap. And this is supposed to be security cameras for like real businesses. And they were just thrashing this USB stick with their software until it went bad. And they didn't buy nice USB sticks. That was a big disappointment. You could RMA the thing, even though it was out of, I think it was out of warranty, but they were still honoring the RMAs or something. Don't quote me on that, but I thought, nah, screw that. If it's just, I was doing research, if it's just a USB stick, I'll figure out how to replace it. Some guys on Reddit figured out, you know, which USB stick the thing would be happy with, opened it up, popped it in, factory reset itself. So at least it wasn't bricked. But that was a pretty big disappointment. I haven't heard about Ubiquiti or Unifi doing anything like that since. So maybe they learned their lesson. I like that you can SSH into the things and see they're just running Linux, I think. I know they are. They call it Unifi OS, but it's Linux. It's kind of weird. They run like a bunch of Node.js applications, as I recall, or maybe it was MongoDB. Anyway, it's very JavaScript heavy. That always makes you wonder. Maybe they've changed that since then. I don't know. But overall, it's been a good experience. I've been running a long time. I would like I said, I would recommend it to anyone. They're really fun. Now, one thing I've been thinking about, I'm so entrenched in the system that, of course, I bought this fairly pricey item, and now I'm even more entrenched. But I have kind of wanted to set up my own pfSense and really do my network by hand, or even use old Cisco gear. But the Unifi stuff is more or less just easy. I don't have to worry about my home network. I get to play around in the retro rack and down here with other stuff, and it doesn't matter if it breaks. And so overall, it's been nice. My wife really loves the Unifi camera app. She can log in and see all the cameras. Super, super easy. So overall, yeah, it's good. Sorry I had to break this into a two-parter, but sometimes that's just the way it goes. Again, part 2 will be coming, but might not be in the next video. Might want to work on something else that's not this modern stuff. Anyway, hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And more content on the way. I'll catch you in part 2. Bonus content, I almost forgot. I said I was going to show you one of the cameras. This is a G4 Bullet, I think. Let me check. It is a G4 Bullet. I think half my cameras are these. They made in a previous version, I think it was a G3 whatever. The Bullet was cheaper than the Pro. Am I remembering that right? I might have some that are slightly better than this. At any rate, they're good. This is metal. They are weatherproof to a certain degree. I can't remember the exact standard they adhere to. I'm not in love with how you mount them, so let's see here. You screw this part into the wall. Yeah, that unscrews. So you mount that on there, you get your cable through there, obviously. That's fun when you forget that. And then it has like some degree of flexibility that you tighten on, and overall it feels very cramped when you've got a cable in there. Yeah, I'm not even doing it right, but it feels very cramped when you need to get a tight angle into your cable, as you could imagine. But overall, really good. I have several that have been outside. They've been surviving the Colorado winters for years, getting snowed on, whatever. Totally fine. So there's a camera. See you in the next video.